Hello and welcome to my podcast. You are listening to Context, the podcast where I tell you a little bit about my life and the context as to why I am the way I am and who I am and how I've come to be me, my authentic self. Finding that and sharing it with the world. I have, for those of you who knew and were waiting on this podcast to come out, hello to you. Those of you who are new and this is your first time ever hearing my voice or listening to me, or maybe you know me, mutual friend or something, hi, welcome. I'm still working right now. It's taken me quite some time to really put this podcast together, and I'm filming myself to upload this on YouTube so that I can go in and make sure that there are proper captions, closed captioning. So if you want to see closed captioning, head on over to listen to this on YouTube. I don't know the channel name yet, but I will edit that in here. This is me at a later time, and the name of the YouTube channel at which you can access closed captioning on this podcast is called Context, the Podcast. And there is a colon, the two little dots vertically above one another, Context, colon, the Podcast on YouTube. So that's how you can look it up, and carrying on. Okay. But I really just want to say before I even get into this first episode that I really appreciate all of the love and support and the light that anyone who has supported me on my journey to being who I am today, anybody that I know, hi, thank you so much for being a part of my life, and I really appreciate you, and I love you so much. So I am feeling very grateful to finally get this podcast in motion. This is something that I've wanted to do for me, without even telling anybody, for almost 2.5 years now. Honestly, coming up on 3 years. I don't know the exact date. I know I bought this microphone in December of 2020. I'm filming this January 2023. So I've had this microphone for quite some time, but I've used it to do some pretty cool things. So context on what the stuff that I've done using this microphone in the last 3 years. 2 years, I guess. We just started 2023. Let me not get ahead of myself, but I have recorded many meditations and talks on the app Insight Timer. So I feel like a lot of my listeners here are coming from Insight Timer. So I'm sending you all so much love. I currently have, let's check, a little over 500 followers on Insight Timer, which is amazing. I love my Insight Timer community. It's going to be, I'm going to talk a lot about different synchronicities and stuff with the app, with my lives. So if you don't already watch me live there, you totally can. I'm assuming that by when I upload this podcast that I will still be doing lives. And if that's changed, then I don't know. I don't see myself not doing lives for a while, but let me quickly, I'm checking my account right now. I have, according to the Insight Timer my teacher page, which can be glitchy, so you never know, but I have 574 followers on Insight Timer. Wow. I haven't really reflected on that. I really wanted also to go on Insight Timer in 2020. I was already I want to teach on Insight Timer. That seems so cool. I want to get my Reiki masters, and I was already ready to be doing what I am doing now. I had that mind. I was I knew that this is something that I'd wanted to do for a long time. The reason why I wanted to do the podcast has shifted quite a bit, but it still reigns true to me and the synchronicities that have come to put my life together in the last few years, which I will be talking about. That's like the whole point of this podcast. So if that interests you, stick around. And if not, then maybe this isn't going to be your cup of tea. But I don't know. I've been talking for like 5 minutes, not even 4 minutes and 54 seconds to be exact. I don't know if I will keep everything in or edit this podcast down. We will see. But I'm just getting some content for y'all. And I've been editing some past content that I want to include. So some previous lives and talks that I have uploaded on Insight Timer. I'll probably upload them as a part of this podcast as well. Or if not, record new talks live on Insight Timer and also upload them to the podcast. So I have a feeling that I'm just going to be splicing some stuff together for each episode, but this episode is all just me chatting straight away. I don't have anything written down or planned to be said right now. Actually, that's not true. I do have a channeled message that I want to share with anybody listening right now, that I channeled 2 years ago to the day. I saw it on my Snapchat memories, and honestly, I'm debating even playing the Snapchat memory. I'll get into it in a minute. Oh, hold on. I'm still talking about, I want to finish my thought with Insight Timer. So as you can see, I'm a little scatterbrained, and this may or may not shift within the next few podcast episodes because I'm currently off of my medication for ADHD, or being like what I take to help me with my neurodivergency to function in a neurotypical society. And I didn't know I was neurodivergent until October of 2020. Like, I knew before, like, I had obviously like sought out to get a test, but like I didn't know, and I didn't allow myself to believe it until I had received that like diagnosis after I had like taken an official test. Like my self-diagnosis, I was never validated. I never validated myself in that. And then I got my test and I started accommodating myself to live a neurodivergent life. And like found ways to like self-soothe and like take care of myself, and what do I actually need to function, and not what has the entire world told me I need to do to function, which I need to take a deep breath. Wow, that got me heated. I don't know if you can tell that got me heated, but I am just like, that's upsetting. I feel like my inner child is really wounded. And so I'm actively healing them. But yeah, let's get into actually personal information. Hi, let me introduce myself. I'm currently going by the name L. LL on Insight Timer is how most of you know me. So I don't know if my name is changing anytime soon, but it is definitely a temporary name that is just more gender neutral and masculine. I spell my name E-L. And so my initials are E and L, spelling L, which is kind of hilarious. That was not on purpose, but it's something that some of my friends have pointed out to me, like, oh, your initials, it's really cool how they spell your name. And I'm like, damn, yeah, that is cool. So yeah, on Insight Timer, I love my community on there. Right now I have around 133 members in my group, which is called May You Be Well with L. So the spelling of this May You Be Well with L group chat is MAYYOUBE. I guess I should be saying the spaces, huh? MAY space YOU space BE space WELL space WITH space EL. And on Instagram, I have made an account for myself, May You Be Well, but it is spelled MAY period U period B period WEL. May You Be Well. And it combines my name right now, L, spelled EL with well. And that's also where you can find me on Venmo. So if you want to support me as a person and send in a donation, you totally can. Don't need to. And I also want to like talk about different mutual aid funds and stuff on this podcast and charities or organizations. So if you're listening and you have any that you want to show to the public or to whoever ends up listening to this podcast, or watches these videos on YouTube, then please send in like in the comments, or you can message me in my group or circle or whatever on Insight Timer if anyone wants to join. It is a public group. Insight Timer is an amazing community. It's a meditation app, and they're not paying me to say this. There's over 23 million members on Insight Timer right now. When I joined, oh my gosh, I don't even remember how many it was, but it was definitely not this much. And right now at 10:26 p.m. on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023 in Boston Eastern Standard Time, there are 60,000 people on the app right now, which is amazing. It's such a beautiful community. And so what I do there is I go live, like a live stream. So you can see my video, you can hear my voice. I'm usually using my microphone. We're circling back to the microphone. So that's something awesome that I've done with my microphone, as well as record some sound healing, which I also upload on Insight Timer, and also use in some of my one-on-one Reiki spiritual guidance sessions. I really only use it if I'm going to be doing sound healing in the session. For the most part, I think my most recent sessions didn't have any sound healing, so I didn't connect to my microphone. So, but I have another session tomorrow that I'm really excited about. I've been trying to connect with this person for so long, and they are just so sweet and really connected with spirit. And it's just so inspiring and beautiful to see their amazing artwork that they do. Anyway, I'm not going to say too much because I want to keep that person anonymous, because if you ever want to book a session with me virtually, or, if you're in the Boston area, let me know, because I'm currently there. I don't know how long I will be there for. I don't know. Depends on, it depends on, how long I'll stay in Boston, which I don't know. I don't know what I'm eating for breakfast tomorrow. Like, I'm here in the now. That's what I've been reminding myself. I am here in the now. And that's all I can be. So what else have I done with my amazing, awesome microphone? That's pretty much it. That's all I can think of right now. These two things were like doing sessions, creating a little business for myself, and being on Insight Timer. And Insight Timer is a free app, so anybody can join, but you can also send donations there, or take courses and pay for the courses, or pay for a membership on Insight Timer. But you can get all the features of free meditations, tracks, music, lives, like talks. Like there's I want to say there's thousands of teachers on there. Like, there are thousands and thousands of people on this app just learning together and growing and meditating. And it's just such a community of love and light. And so if you are being called to like meditation, or discovering this new age, really shifting into your authentic self and putting your right foot forward, going after a lifetime of trauma and traumatic events, one after the other, collectively, anybody who is on this earth right now, collectively, we have gone through astronomical amounts of trauma, collectively and on an individual basis. And yes, some people have more intense or whatever trauma than other people. I don't judge you for your trauma. Like, we all went through trauma. It has all affected us on a deep individual soul level, and we are all able and worthy of healing, and to live authentically and to live a life of love. And this is really the lifestyle that I have created for myself, is living and coming from a place of love. So all of the opportunities that are brought to me, they're of love. And the relationships in my life, if somebody does not respect my boundaries, bye. Like, I value myself and I love myself so unconditionally that I have just been putting my right foot forward in the direction that I want to go. What path do I want to see for myself? not what anybody else has told me. Yeah, sure, I'm influenced and inspired by others, and maybe there are some things that I'm still healing from and working through and growing, and we are ever changing as individuals, as, souls living in a human existence. So, yeah, getting back to what I was saying. So, I originally wanted to start off this podcast. I was 19. At the time, I had a more feminine name, and I'm not talking about my name right now, but I'm just giving you my context. So imagine this. me right now, in the present moment. My name is Elle, and I use they, them, and he, him pronouns interchangeably. I like them equally to be used for me right now, like when people are talking about me, or talking like in front of me about me, not whether or not I'm present. Like when people refer to me, I like when they hear using both he, him, and they, them pronouns. Some days I have a preference for one, some days I don't. Some days they feel better, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes I feel like there are no pronouns that really describe me in my vessel, in my body, because I am gender fluid. I'm gender non-conforming. But the fluidity of my gender is always non-conforming. It's always a version of being non-binary, transmasculine, like it doesn't, the labels, they don't exist within the binary. They don't exist within the realm of gender that society has had. Did that make sense? Whatever. It's honestly late when I'm filming this. I'm usually in bed by now. But I knew I had to just get up and film something, and Spirit was telling me, like, just do it. Like, I've been procrastinating this, and I haven't been taking my Adderall, so I'm going to start taking it tomorrow, and I'm going to film more content, and I'm going to edit this together, and we will see when I am uploading this. I think my goal is to... I think I feel like this podcast will definitely be live before April of 2023. That's like, I think I can say that like for sure. And if not, and if it's past April 2023, I give myself grace. I love you. Thank you for doing all the hard work and taking care of yourself. Because I don't know where I'm going to be right now. I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow. Like literally anything can happen in the next 5 minutes. And I don't know what it will be until I'm there. So I'm going to live now. I'm going to live in the here and the now. And this is something that I've been working on. Think back to the first week of 2023, if you're in the space for that. Did you have a chaotic time? Was it crazy? Did you feel insane? Or did you feel so tired or overwhelmed or overworked or frustrated or angry, or just these negative, low vibrational feelings and emotions that just like, damn, we're going through it. Like, damn, we are going through it. If you felt like that, you're not alone. Right now, first week, we just finished the first week of 2023 when I'm filming this, when I'm recording this. We are in Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde, which I've been a broken record about. On top of a full moon that we had on the 7th or 6th of January. The energy of a full moon, if you don't know already, can kind of linger for 3 days before and 3 days after. Everybody feels the energy of the moon differently. Your feeling of the moon, like how your energy is affected, can shift over time. It's not the same every time. Every full moon has different energy. Every new moon has different energy. The moon is an ongoing energy source being, and so are we. So, and we'll talk about the moon. I'll talk about the moon. I love the moon. I love working with the moon, but we'll get into the context of that later. So let me get back on track to what I was saying before. One of the tangents is that I feel like this podcast is really just like, if you need a space, like I feel like you can listen to this podcast, like whether or not you're like actively engaging or watching it. I personally, when I'm listening to podcasts, I like to watch it because processing audio is a lot easier for me when I'm reading the words as I'm hearing them. For the most part. That's not to say that I can't process audio without that, But, some days is easier than others and some days is harder than others. And with, I also identify being disabled within this society, within the communities that I am a part of. Not all of them, but some of them. My body and my mind don't function the way that society has kind of evolved itself to require in order to achieve like bare minimum in like a cis white man, like a cis hetero white man's eyes, like an old boomer, like I don't want to get into this now. I want to keep this light and happy as I'm talking about it just right now, because it's been a triggering time. Oh, that's what I was saying about the Mercury retrograde. Okay. I know I am talking at the speed of light. Let me take a breath. Jesus Christ. Okay. So the energy has been really wild. And that's what I was saying, is like, I'm giving myself grace for this podcast because I know it's shifting in gears. I did my final, so a little bit more about me, because that's the first, this is what we're talking about today. I'm like, I swear, like, actually, I swear, like, the next few episodes, they're going to be more put together than this right now. Like, I'm going to, like, have topics I want to talk about in like, specifics or questions that I'll answer that people have asked me a lot, or different themes, or, like, I don't know. I have some Q&As that I've recorded from Insight Timer, so I'll definitely have those in some of the episodes as well, and then maybe even elaborate even more on some of the things. But for today, you're getting scatterbrain, and that's okay. We're gonna have days that we're scatterbrained. So this is me on one of these days. Like, I am so grateful for my life right now. I'm really, 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 really just have been floating in gratitude the last few days, which is not something that many people can say during Mercury retrograde. And I know it's because my next 2 weeks are going to get freaking crazy, amazing, awesome, and really busy. And it's going to be a lot, but I'm prepared for this. I'm ready. And I know that it's happening. So I'm trusting my guides. I'm trusting spirit. And when you're like, what? He keeps saying spirit. See, when I talk about myself, I don't really like using he, him pronouns. Like, it's hard for me to do. And I don't know why that is. I'm just acknowledging. I'm just thinking out loud like, just thinking my thoughts out loud. That's really what oh my God, let me slow down. That's really what this podcast is. It's just me thinking my thoughts out loud. So, welcome to my brain. Welcome to this the context of my brain and what I'm just thinking about. So I've really been floating in gratitude, and it's been really hard to do, but I think the only reason that I'm able to do it is because of the journey that I've gone through in the last 2 years with my identity of self and my identity with just like how I want to live, because for 20 years of my life I was living the phrase "I was living a lie" might resonate with some of you who are also trans who are listening to this, but like, that doesn't resonate with me. I wasn't lying about who I was. I just didn't know. I was allowed to be who I was, who I am. I mean, I felt very connected to myself growing up, and like, I have a lot of blocked memory of childhood. Like, there's a lot of trauma there. And if you're a loved one listening to this podcast, I love you. But some of y'all did cause me some trauma, so maybe don't listen to this podcast of me chatting about my life unless you are ready to accept and face that. But I love you, my family. Ani ohev atkhem amon amon. That was some Hebrew. That was I love you a lot. Or love y'all a lot, I guess. I don't know. You all. there's not like a direct translation, I guess. Well, like there is, but like, with the way that grammar works, like the direct translation, ani, me, ohev, loves, said in a masculine way. Wait, what did I just say? Ani ohev otchem. Ani ohev, I love. Otchem, you all. Mon amon, a lot. Much, many. I don't know what the direct translation is, but that's just how I feel these words mean, so I speak Hebrew fluently. And when I say fluently, I started speaking English and Hebrew at the same time growing up. My mother, my amazing, wonderful mother, I love you so much, grew up in Israel, and I have dual citizenship with the United States and with Israel. So I am a citizen in both places at once. And some of you are like, wait, but you are, you're 21, almost 22. Y'all, I turned 22 in a month. And I feel like when I was 19, I was like, who cares that I'm 19? Like, who cares that I'm going to be 20? Like, people will listen to this, like the podcast. It'll be fine. Like I was never really afraid about that. But now that I'm speaking aloud into this microphone, now that I am like actually recording content that will be live on the internet forever, there's some limiting beliefs trying to hold me back, being like, dude, you're not even 22. You're a child. Like, you're so little. Like, I know I'm a baby. I know for all the wisdom I share, for all the messages I have for the world, like, I know I'm really young. But I've been working on my gifts with spirit, with my connection. And I'll get into what that means in a little bit. I've like really gotten faith in myself in doing that. But here I am. I'm like, who gives about what I have to say? Like, who really gives a damn? Like, who gives it? And whether or not you give it about what I'm saying, I'm doing this for me, a little time capsule to kind of see where I'm at and how much I think I've grown. And then, in a few years from now, once I've grown even more, I'll be able to reflect on these podcasts and be like, holy, this is where I am now. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. So I didn't know I was trans until 2020, I think. I'm pretty sure it sat with me for real in 2021, and I started exploring what that meant. And I think with my experience, because here's just a general disclaimer, if you're not already aware, if you're listening in and you're wanting to learn about trans experiences and an experience of a neurodivergent human being, if you're not aware of this, if this is new information to you, everybody is different, which is makes sense. Everybody is different. And now I'm remembering what I was saying earlier. Damn, the train of thought is really split right now. But I'm just gonna say this disclaimer that anything that I'm saying, I am still ignorant in many ways, and I know that I have so much to learn, but these are my experiences, and this is where I'm coming from my lifetime. So I have a background of growing up in Southern California. I'm currently living in Boston. I go to a predominantly white institution for an undergraduate degree in a BFA in musical theater. And if you didn't know that about me, if this is news and you're just finding this out about me, because I know some people on Insight Timer, some of you know, but some of you don't know that I'm a college student right now. I'm finishing up my college degree, and I do musical theater. I sing and dance and act and do the whole shebang, and I love it most days. But I just want to say, I'm noticing that I'm just the judgment of myself, of, you know, reflecting that when I was 19, I was so ready to do this podcast. The idea behind it is I was about to get a breast reduction, and I wanted to make a podcast talking about my experience, going really in detail, really in depth of what it was like for the healing process, how it has affected my life, how my life has changed because of it for the better. Like I was really looking forward to making a video, like vlogging. I have videos still. I still plan on making these videos for my inner child, for my like 18, 19-year-old self, like, because that's still a child to me. I still feel like I was a child then. My brain is still developing right now. I'm not yet 25. So, we're all children. I think adulthood is made up. Who knows actually what they're doing? Like, if you're an adult and you know what you're doing and you know how to be an adult, can you let me know? Because any adult that I talk to, they kind of just seem like they also don't know what's going on for reals. And we're all just telling ourselves things, So anyway, tangent aside, from the other tangents aside, because all this is just going to be tangents, but you know that already. If you're listening already now, I don't have to explain myself, but a breast reduction. And I had my breast reduction on November 30th, 2020. And I am now 2 years and 40 days post-op. And I can say they're still healed really well. I do not regret my decision one bit. I know some people are like, you were 19 when you decided to have major surgery to affirm your gender, because, breast reduction can be gender affirming for some people. For me, it was more the sense of gender dysphoria, which I at the time saw as body dysmorphia. At the time, I believed that if my boobs were littler, that I would love my body more, that I would not feel so big all the time, because these were narratives I was telling myself growing up, that I was a chunky kid growing up. I got bullied for being fat. Like, I know that a lot of people were as well. Like, there's there's a trend on TikTok right now talking about the almond mom. And if you know about that, then you know what this is about. But if you don't know about that, then I'm not going to get into deep detail about it right now. But an almond mom was kind of there. And there are definitely generations of eating habits and of disordered eating. Why am I talking about this? How did I get here? Trigger warning, content warning. Yeah, I'm going to include this in the content warning. Yeah. Oh, we're talking about the breast reduction. Damn, I'm so easily distracted. I don't know if you can hear my neighbors right now, but they're moving some furniture. But so to my 19-year-old self, you made it. And I'm proud of you for getting that surgery that has changed my life forever. Something I would go back to my 19-year-old self and tell her, because I still use she, her pronouns at 19. Actually, I think when I got the surgery, I had been thinking about using she, they pronouns for a while. I think I had been thinking about it for a while. But she was still 19. I would have said, listen to that gut instinct to go down to an A cup, because when I got this breast reduction, everybody was telling me what size they thought I should get without me even asking my opinion. Not everybody. That's an exaggeration. Not literally everybody, but like so many people are like, so what size are you going to get? And I wasn't making the final decision until the moments leading up to surgery. Like, I talked with my doctor. I was like, so what size should we go down to? My surgeon was like, it's up to you. we can do this or we can do this. And we don't like whatever you want. I could do it, don't worry about it. You decide in the operating room, like right before you go in the operating room. I'm like, okay, cool. And I thought about it for months. I had scheduled my surgery in November of 2020, and I had known about it since like July 2020, maybe June 2020. I did this shit in the pandemic, in the beginning of the pandemic. We are still in a pandemic, people. You don't know that. Oh my gosh, where have you been? I would love to know what privileged rock that you live under if you don't realize that we are still in a pandemic right now. That was really harsh. That was a mean judgment. I don't really mean that, but like that's how my ego was feeling. Like, oh my God. Without getting too much into it, this pandemic has been a mass disabling epidemic, I think is how you would say it. Event, wave. That's something that I want to just state before I really talk about my breast reduction journey. Switching my words, I have like what some may call learning disabilities, or like just disabilities in general. I've already told you that I identify with being disabled, and some of them are like mental stuff and some of it's physical stuff. So, but you can't really like physically see it. Most of my disabilities are not seen like to others, and I have been masking them my entire life up until I found out I was neurodivergent, which was right before I got my surgery. So this is how this is the context. This is how it all ties together. I started figuring out like, oh, I don't have to do ABCD because society has told me to do it, because that's the way to be smart. That's the way to be correct. That's the way to be a good girl. That's the way to be a proper lady, a nice woman. I was like, oh, I've just been masking being a girl for my entire life because that's all I knew how to do. Being a woman, because that's all I was told how to be. An object. I felt so objectified my entire life prior to this surgery. And that was had a really drastic toll on my mental health. I really hated my body. I really hated myself. And a lot of it was because of how sexualized I was, because I had massive titties. I'm making myself laugh now. I had massive tits, y'all. They were big. And again, thanks my mom and my genes for that one. But yeah, I started exploring what a more androgynous style would be like. Like, I always loved an androgynous style. I always grew up having very different styles. Like, I was never like a typical girl, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't a girl. I was just pretending to be one because that's all I knew how to do. And I really always was like, never really felt like a normal girl. I never really understood why we had to do specific things, but some things I really enjoyed, like doing girly things. Like, I loved makeup growing up, and I used to do dance competition when I was like 7 years old. I was a part of a competition group, and I did solo competition as well as group competition in like jazz and hip hop. So, and it was definitely like an appropriated version of hip hop. I will say, to my knowledge of what I experienced, and we can get into that another time. But I learned how to do makeup from a really young age. It was a standard that these 6-year-olds, these 5-year-olds are wearing false lashes, have their blush, have their eyeshadow, have their mascara, have the matching color shade of lipstick and the pearls or the earrings. If they're a clip-on, if you could pierce them, these little diamond berets, like barrettes. I don't know how you say that. Not berets, barrettes, like a little barrette, like a clip in the hair. And like, oh my God, there's a lot of trauma there too. Moving forward, I always love to express myself. I feel like I was like hyper feminizing myself on some days when I had the energy to it. And everybody would always compliment me, tell me my makeup would look so good. In high school, I remember I wore makeup on my eyes almost every day. And it was a way of expressing art. For me, it would be part of my morning routine. I would sit on my floor with my mirror and just mix these eyeshadows on ways that I had seen hundreds of videos or maybe thousands of videos on YouTube, like Stila Babe or Mac Barbie, like, like Bethany Moda. I was a big fan, and I watched her videos and all these other YouTubers and their videos of how to do makeup. And it was like, what, like 2014 at this time when I was in like high school, I think, as the timeline. I don't know, I can double check, but like this is when I was really getting into it. And some days I would wear it more than others, and like I would go through months where I wouldn't, and then I would just like decide to wear it at the end. I remember I started wearing makeup a lot less and less as the years progressed in high school. Like as I think I valued my sleep a lot more, so I would really take 5 minutes to get ready. Like I literally would wake up, put my clothes on, grab food, and go to school. In high school, I lived pretty close, so I didn't have a huge trek of time getting to my school, whether I walked or drove. It was fairly significantly short amount of time, which is a luxury, I know, and I'm very, very grateful and fortunate to have had the education that I have had in my high school, and living in such close proximity to it, which I know is not something that everybody has. So this breast reduction, y'all, I filmed my experience. I have a shit ton of videos, so much so that my old laptop like ran out of storage and started glitching, and like I don't know if I can access the videos that I have on there of me talking about my healing experience, but I'm gonna definitely look into that and try to get the videos off of there. But I have videos that I recorded on my phone, like that I want to edit together. So that's definitely like something that was in, like, that was what I wanted this podcast to be. And then I was just gonna like continue talking about like being non-binary and like what that meant to me and but I was just exploring. I was just beginning. I had no idea what was ahead of me. Like I am currently, today is my 7 months on testosterone. So you are listening to my voice right now at 7 months on the boy juice, which is what I'll say to my friends. I'll call it boy juice, boy spelled BOI, boy juice. And I started June 10th, and my voice has dropped, and it will continue to drop, is the goal, is the hope. I mean, I can feel my voice, my vocal cords changing, like I can feel my voice dropping. So like I know that it's only going to get lower if I keep injecting myself with the boy juice every week. And I've actually been having nurses do it for me instead of me doing it myself, because that's fucking hard. But I can also talk about that another time. It's honestly getting pretty late, and maybe this first episode will just be a quick one. Maybe not. I don't really know how much content I've filmed now. I've taken two recordings to kind of get myself back on track because I feel so scatterbrained today. But let me share this message that I will get the Snapchat just so you can hear how I talked 2 years ago. And then I will read you the message. But let me see. Let me hold this up. Snapchat memories. Okay. Okay, so just got a really good, oh, I accidentally took a screenshot, but you didn't hear it. Message? Whatever you want to call it. Set those boundaries. I was also like, honestly, from knowing myself 2 years ago, I was probably stoned in this video, but like I would get downloads and messages like, and still do when I am in union with cannabis, as some might like to say. Also, I was still masking my voice. Like I didn't realize that like I wasn't masking my voice in that video, but like I was talking up here because like that's where I thought I needed to be talking. And like that's just like where I was talking for like my entire life. And like the way that I would talk, just I'm not thinking of the word right now. The resonance of it and like not inflection. The inflection of my voice, like choosing to go up on certain words. But the message, the download, whatever you want to call it, that I have written down from January 10th, 2021, which still resonates today. This is a direct synchronicity with some sound healing I did on Insight Timer. If you hear, I just have my drum. I have a little tongue drum with me, and I actually recorded it. So honestly, maybe I'll end this podcast with some sound healing for y'all if you want to experience the sound healing and what I was saying today when setting the intentions. So this is the channeled message. Set those boundaries. Become who you want to be. Because, and then in my own words, shit, man. It is all about divine timing. It's all going to happen. It will, period. And that's just me punctuating. That's not me saying period as a word. That's me punctuating. It's going to work out. Don't give up. Don't lose hope. Just become. You're allowed to be in love with yourself. You're allowed to think it's all going to be okay all the time. You can get there. You're gonna get there. You don't need to be afraid or upset. You can release all judgment of yourself. You don't need to care about other people's opinions. Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, that's exactly what I've been trying to like advocate this week for Mercury retrograde. And I can tell you right now, I have become who I want to be. And I could cry about this. I say I could cry because I'm feeling the emotions of like, I would be crying right now if I was not on testosterone. But since starting testosterone, it's been harder to just spontaneously cry at the things that I feel sentimental or like grateful for. I don't know, I've cried a little bit, but like not as intensely as it was before starting testosterone. But I trust in divine timing. I have made it a daily practice for affirmations to tell myself things like this. Like, I love myself. I trust myself for over a year. I don't even know how long it's been. And I haven't done it consecutively every day, but I did for a few months every day, speak into my water. And I still do it in the morning when I feel called to, which is almost every day. Say affirmations to myself, or I always say affirmations to myself when I'm meditating in the morning, or doing some daily pleasure practices, which we can totally talk about in another episode. I've mentioned it on Insight Timer a little bit. So for those of y'all who are curious, I will get into what that means in another day. But setting these boundaries to be who you are, you know, I've come to the point that I've figured life isn't worth living if I'm going to just let other people push me and walk all over me. I used to people please my entire life, to please society, to please my family, to please my friends who I thought were my friends, who are no longer my friends, to please past partners even if I didn't feel like I was sacrificing, just shifting who I am to make others happy. And I don't live for other people anymore. I'm living for myself because this is the only life that I have. And there have been really low lows in this lifetime for me that I didn't know if it was worth, I don't want to get into that. It's really low. But I'm at a place now. I'm definitely not in my highest of highs. I still have depression. I still have anxiety. But I handle it a lot better. And I trust that it's not the end. That it's not the end all be all, that I have yet to be happier, to yet experience more joy than I've ever experienced in my life, if that could even be possible, Just don't lose hope. It's all going to work out. You're allowed to be in love with yourself. I am in love with myself. I love myself, y'all. And I didn't. 2 years ago, I did not. I was learning to love myself 2 years ago. I was learning. And for some people, learning to love yourself takes more than 2 years. Like, it definitely took me more than 2 years to learn to love myself. And I don't love myself every day feeling in love with myself. But I love myself every day knowing that I am the only person that I have constantly in this lifetime. I love myself unconditionally, my essence, my being, my soul. I came here for a reason. To live this life for a reason, to experience what I am experiencing. So I'm trusting that I am experiencing everything divinely, in a divine time, divine place, all as it should be. All is well. With harm to none, for the greatest and highest good of all, I'm experiencing exactly what I need to experience. I trust that I am exactly where I need to be, always, in the here and the now. And that's not something that I feel confident about every day. Today, obviously, right now, I'm feeling very confident about that. I don't know if it's obvious, but to me, I'm like, damn, have I been sounding conceited? I don't know. Doesn't matter. I don't judge myself for it. So why does it matter if you're judging me for it? You can judge me all you want. I'm still going to sit here talk to a microphone. I'm making myself laugh. You don't need to be afraid or upset. You can release all judgment of yourself. You don't need to care about other people's opinions. That's so fitting. Why would I care about anybody's opinion but myself? Because this is my life. I feel like I've blurbed so much today, and I feel like I need to stop this podcast episode. I don't know how long each episode is going to be. I feel like it's going to vary. So up to you which one you want to listen to, but I do plan on having a pretty detailed descriptions. I want this podcast to be accessible, and if you are finding that it is not accessible to you in a way that you would like more accessibility, please reach out to me. I also have an email that you can find me at may.u.b. Okay, let me spell it out. may.u.b.wel@gmail.com. May you be well. But the U and the B are the letters, and the well is spelled with W-E-L, just one L. So you can email me. Let me know. Let me know some stuff. Or if you want to sponsor me, if you want to sponsor this podcast, because for now I'm just putting this out in the world, but I would love to sponsor your business, your products, your organization. If you want to sponsor me, I would love to give you some shout outs here on this very podcast. So let me know if we can make that happen. That's my email. So thank you so much for listening. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of whatever time of day it is for you, or evening, or night, or morning. So I hope you have a great day. It was lovely to meet you. If this is your first time listening to me, hey. And if I know you, hi. And I'm excited to see where this will go. And I know this is very low quality camera. I know this is like, I am a working person of one right now. I would love inevitably to have a team of people working on this podcast with me. So one day that can totally happen. But for now, see, I'm singing. It's time for me to go to bed. It's 11:13 p.m. right now, and my laptop is at 13%. And I just wanted to shout out that synchronicity. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really want to say before I actually end this podcast. No, I think honestly, when I go back and edit this, I will listen, and if there's any gaps I want to fill, I'll just record it in the second episode. And my goal is to have 5 episodes released. So you can listen to them all at once, or not. You can binge the context of my life, or just listen when you can. And I think, if there's any like questions and stuff, again, you can always reach out to me. For now, I don't know. I mean, I may retract this offer, or I might change my email or something, but for now, this is where you can find me. And I'm sending you so much love and light, and I am always going to remind you to drink some water. Stay hydrated, folks. It's really important for your body, your mind, and your spirit. And I mean that from a scientific point of view, from an energetic point of view, and a spiritual point of view. So yeah. Oh, I guess something else about me is in this podcast, I'm also going to talk about, I talked about this podcast for my final project. So this is me looping back to context from earlier. And now I know I've been talking for a while. I'm going to get a drink of water. I did a final project for a class called Jewish Ways of Life. And shout out to Rabbi Lisa. Dr. E, shout out to you for believing in me and for encouraging me to be and to accommodate myself and to learn and to grow and to share my wisdom. And thank you to my class for supporting me as well. If any of you are listening, hey. But I had a class that for our final presentation, we had to do some sort of essay about like a book review, any book related to Judaism in any way. And I did mine on Kabbalah, like Kabbalistic magic and rituals and studies and practice. I think the title of the book was Kabbalah for the Modern World, or Kabbalah, however you want to say it. And I, for my final project, sat right here, turned my microphone on, turned my little iMovie, and I talked for 5 minutes about the synchronicities within the book and the synchronicities with my idea of starting this podcast. So that's what I turned in for my final project. And if you're like, what the heck? That's how awesome this class was. Like, classes nowadays that professors are really just trying to teach you and get you to change and grow as a person versus like stick you to some sort of academic testing and like word count and like, not that like, okay, word count, like yes, for some things there are like suggested word count, but like it's not just about doing a rubric. Like it's about expressing yourself, about finding who you are. And I felt like this class really was a safe space for people to explore their opinions and their ideas and their biases and stuff. And, we learned about Judaism and the history behind it and where we are today. And obviously there is a lot of learning. You can't learn all of it in one semester, but we learned a lot in one semester. We met twice a week. Sometimes we were on Zoom. Sometimes we were in person. Some of us wore masks. Others didn't. And not really many people talked to each other in the class besides like the people who sat next to one another, or like when you were raising your hand to talk with our professor in front of the class. So this was like the setting of the class. But at the end, I had maybe talked to like 2 or 3 people in this class the entire semester who I knew from other classes already, as well as the professor herself. When I did this final presentation, everybody was so supportive and was like, please let us know when your podcast comes out. Like, you have an amazing voice to listen to. Like, I'm so excited. This is so interesting. Thanks for like sharing your story. Like, oh my God, the feedback was so beautiful and positive, and I wasn't expecting to have all of that support from all these strangers who weren't very strangered. Like, I had talked in that class, like people had heard me speak from time to time. I don't know if people knew it was me, or like, I don't know who was actually paying attention in that class. No offense, Dr. E, but like, let's be real. It was at 10 a.m. A lot of people were waking up or were doing other work in class, and as well as paying attention and learning and growing. But there was a lot of people who in the back, I feel like, not to call you out, people in the back, you could see what I was doing up at the front. But yeah, I'm calling myself out too. But I really, really am appreciative for my community on campus. So if you're listening and you go or went to the same institution that I am at currently, or that I went to, sending you love. I hope you're doing well. Reach out to me if you, about anything. Let's chat. Let's catch up. And I say that very lightly because like I'm about to go into a hell of a semester. And so you'll probably see that in the next few episodes of where I am and how I'm doing within this semester. I think eventually, once I graduate, I will be posting podcasts. Like, I think I would love to do bi-weekly, like once every other week, to post an episode and have them be more current. But while I'm still in class, I think pre-recording these 5 episodes and releasing them all at once is what I'm going to be doing for the first half of season 1 of Context. Because I feel like there's going to be multiple seasons of this podcast. I don't even know if that's the right terminology for it, but like, as I grow as a person, as I grow in doing this and create a bigger platform for people, and, you know, as I shine my light onto the world and inevitably reach maybe thousands, maybe millions of people. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but I know as I grow, no matter how many listeners I have now, I definitely feel like I'll be able to upgrade my, camera quality, my recording, my mic quality, my guests, the sponsors that I have. Like, this podcast is very much just beginning. So if you're listening now, if you're seeing me now, listening, and whenever now is, this could be once the other seasons have already been released. You could be listening to this for the first time years and years and years from now, and that's really cool and kind of freaks me out. But you'll see how much lower my voice is, so that's cool. But I'm just speaking to the future, so I'm calling back myself to the present and ending this podcast episode. And it is now 11:21, and I have 11% on my laptop. And now it's 11:22. That's a direct synchronicity. And I will talk more about that in future episodes. My relationship to Kabbalah and Kabbalistic magic, and my rituals and my practices religiously and spiritually. So thanks for tuning in. And I will talk to you later on Context. Bye.